Hey, everybody. Welcome to Resiliency Radio, your go-to podcast for the most cutting-edge insights in integrative and functional medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Jill, and with each episode, we dive into the heart of healing and personal transformation. Join us as I interview renowned world leaders, thought leaders, medical experts, and everyone in between. You'll see we cover a variety of topics, some controversy, some not so much, but all interesting to think about. Today is no different. I'm going to talk to you about resiliency and introduce our guest in just a moment. Resiliency obviously happens to be one of my favorite topics. If you don't already have a copy of my book, Unexpected, Finding Resilience Through Functional Medicine, Science, and Faith, you can get it on Amazon or anywhere you buy books. You can also find more information at readunexpected.com. And before we get to our guest, if you're looking for quality supplements, you can find everything you need at drjillhealth.com. We recently completely revamped my online store, and you can find there all kinds of solutions for your gut health, for your skin health, for optimal performance and energy, for heart health, for bone health, and you name it, you're going to find products and services that have been screened by me, curated by me, so that you know you're getting quality ingredients that really work. This store was born out of my own experience in the clinic, and it's the products and services that I actually use for my patients in clinical practice. So go there, check it out, drjillhealth.com. And today I just wanted to show you a couple of really cool things that we have there that you might find interesting. This one is our new age reversal neck cream. A lot of you women out there, if you're my age, you're looking at your neck and how it looks and appears, and it's a common place to get sun damage. I really love this product for the neck particularly. It gives less crepey appearance, and it gives that moisture if you're in a state like Colorado. So check out Age Reversal Neck Cream at drjillhealth.com. And the other thing, our eyes, right? Our eyes are such a big deal. And again, state of Colorado is so dry here, and the eyes can really tell the age of a woman or a man. This is products for both women and men, clean and really work. This one is called Neutral Eyes. It's one of our best sellers, and we recently were out of stock. We have it back in stock now. It's a wonderful, I always recommend just put a little tiny dab on your brow bone before bed after you wash your face. It's called Neutral Eyes, and you can find that at drjillhealth.com. And of course, as I mentioned on other episodes, we have so many other products there. One other one I'll just show you really quick is this needle-free serum. A little hard to read there. See if we can get it in focus on the camera. Needle-free serum. There we go. And this product is your Botox in a bottle. And for all of you women who don't use Botox or want to do a more natural alternative, I love this product. Just a little dab around the eyes, in here, and sometimes even on the forehead area. You don't need much. You could do a couple drops at bedtime on your clean skin. I love the effects of this needle-free serum at drjillhealth.com. Okay, let me introduce our guest. Dr. Eric Zielinski is a chiropractor, public health researcher, and best-selling author. Driven by his own personal health struggles and the desire to help others, Dr. Zielinski became a leading expert in essential oils and natural remedies. He believes in the power of integrating ancient biblical wisdom with modern science to promote physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And we dive into this. Just a disclaimer, we both talk a little bit about our faith. As you know from me talking to all kinds of guests on this show, I have a deep respect for all of you out there, no matter what your background is. But I will say that we kind of talk a bit about our own personal faith journey. If you're interested in that, you're going to hear it all on the show. Together with his wife, Dr. Z co-founded Bible Health Academy and authored several books, including The Healing Power of Essential Oils and Essential Oils Diet. They have also created popular website, naturallivingfamily.com. You'll hear him mention that for some free recipes to make essential oils for cleaning and body products. And they are renowned speakers and educators sharing their expertise. And it was so cool because as we recorded this podcast, they are getting ready to have their seventh child, and they have this beautiful family, and they just have a great story of how to live naturally. So let's welcome Dr. Z. Dr. Z, it's so good to be together here. We have passed in all forums and places over the last decade or so,
Yeah.
and I've always had just a great admiration and respect because you're a man of integrity, you're a family man, you're a man of faith, and it's just one thing we share in common. And today I want to kind of dive deep into your story, some of the things that you're doing in the world. But I always love to start with my guests of kind of how did you get into what you're doing now, and how did you got some cool stories. So why don't you share a little bit about that?
Oh, and Dr. Jill, thank you so much. And thank you so much for the last couple conferences. You're just going from documentary to interview, and you just pulled me. You just pulled me, said, "Hey, give me a hug," and you just
Yeah.
ran away because you're just being everyone. Everyone. Dr. Jill is a celebrity in the functional medicine world, and she's just a blessing to everybody. And thank you so much for the invite. And you know, The origin story of how we started doing what we've been doing now, it's about 11 years that we started our Bible health ministry. It really all was birthed. And
Uh-huh.
my wife and I were both living parallel lives, hundreds of miles away. And when we met, when we were in our mid 20s, it was like, wow, you've been living this life. I've been living this life. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful marriage. And 18 and a half, almost 19 years later, 7 babies later, we just feed off of each other. And our stories individually. I'll share,
Sure.
give her an opportunity to share her story at another time. Yet mine was birthed in just a series of just chronically being unwell. And all started when I was an infant, and for a variety of reasons, my mother decided not to nurse me, and so I was formula fed. And that was just when everything just started with just these little chronic gut issues, and then frequent bouts of illness, frequent bouts of antibiotics. What did you do in the 80s? You get your tonsils and adenoids taken out when you had chronic sore throats and strep, and then just developed into these chronic gut issues where gas indigestion. Mid teenage, I just developed as a teenager cystic acne. And again, what do you do in the 90s? You got on Accutane,
Uh-huh.
which is now known as the suicide drug. And I share all that to say, you add on Wonder Bread, Kraft singles, and bologna, and just the American lifestyle. And I was in such a pit, like a dark place when I was in my late teens, early 20s, purposeless, hopeless, pain, chronic pain in my back, headaches, constant joint issues. I actually had an MRI done, and a neurologist looked at me and said, "What did you do to yourself? You have a spine of a 50-year-old." And
Wow.
I had no hope, just physically, emotionally, mentally. And I was at my spiritual rock bottom. And there's a lot more to be said about that, social phobias and other things. Because when you have these kind of issues when you're a kid, you tend to draw back and retract from people. And so when I was 22, I had a dramatic, I was blind, now I see moment, and I met Christ. And I had just a spiritual transformation. My mentor at the time, who's 82 years old today, his name is
Wow.
Enoch. He said, "Eric, your body's at the temple of the Holy Spirit. You got to take care of it." And at the time, Doc, I was abusing narcotics, street drugs like ecstasy and cocaine. I was veritably an alcoholic, smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, self medicating with Vicodin, and just doing all kinds of crazy things just to numb the pain. And then God freed me from all of those addictions like immediately. But you know what happened? I still had gut issues. I still had skin issues. I still had pain issues. And I felt God saying, "You're going to have to figure this one out." So 23-ish years ago, there was not a lot going on back then. We had Mercola, drmercola.com,
Uh-huh.
and a couple other websites. And I just dove in. And so fast forward, and when I met my wife, she had her own story where she suffered from bulimia, and she had her own just gut issues that she ended up healing herself. And it was like, wow, there is a natural lifestyle.
Yeah.
So in 2014, we started a natural living family. And from then, we've just been sharing our non-toxic living strategies. And it's been honored. We're so honored to be on the 700 Club, a Netflix documentary. I looked at the numbers, and we've helped more, and we've reached more than 10 million people in the last 11 years. And I still can't get over the fact that God would trust, a kid from Detroit and my wife from Midland, Michigan with this message of just non-toxic living. And here we are today.
Wow, I love that so much because what I've seen in my own life and clearly in your life and the life of your wife is I do believe God often allows these really difficult things. And mine was cancer and Crohn's and all the things I went through. And it was training ground, right, for a much bigger view of health and wellness and a much bigger view of even, I love the word resilience, which is in our title because we both agree that creating resilience, how does that really look? We'll dive into that. But what
Yep.
happened
Yep.
for me was really like understanding it was the first one for me with cancer. And in that moment, it was tragic. It was horrific. I didn't know if I would survive. But very early on, God said, "This illness will not end in death. It is for the glory of God." And I grabbed onto that like a lifesaver, right? Like a total raft and said, "Okay, God, I don't know what's in store, but I will trust that somehow you will use this for your good." Looking back, I would never have the platform, the story, the documentary, the book, any of the things that God has allowed, or the patients who trust me without going through that really difficult time myself. And I'm sure you have the same thing with your story. You're able to relate to so many people. Now, non-toxic living, there's nothing I get more excited about because it really is the foundation of what I do as environmental toxicologist-ish doctor, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk about that. Why is that the core? Like when you were young and you had acne and the gut issues, and so many of our patients struggle, people think that it might be a pill or it might be even like, a supplement, but it's truly the opposite, right? I always say clean air, clean water, clean food. Why don't you frame it for us as far as why is it so important to start with the taking out, elimination of the toxicity versus putting in a bunch of things before we deal with the toxic load?
Yeah, it stems from this concept of we look to without for health. We look to our doctor and we look to our government and we look to our community for advice, for guidance, for support. I mean, we look to just big business for food, for convenience, for I mean, we've gotten to the place where we become ultimately like woefully prepared to take care of ourselves. My first book, I did a lot of research, as you know what it's like writing a book, and I'm a public health researcher. That's my background, and so I took my first book really seriously, and I went to another level when it comes to just looking at all kinds of different and avenues of research. And I stumbled upon a study that I still go to back today. It was a Medscape study, and one of the emergency room practitioners made a pretty profound quote that said like 75 to 80% of people that come into the emergency room have no business being here. They shouldn't be here. This is simple things, simple cuts, simple sprains, simple bruises. I go, and most that come demand a treatment like antibiotic.
Yes.
And so I know you can testify to that. And what flipped, like this disempowerment of, and not that I'm saying we all need to go off grid. And I don't, look, we live in a neighborhood, but we know how to garden. We know how to can. We know how to dehydrate. We know how to make our own stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, it didn't hit me, Doc, until COVID, when everyone went frantic over the basic necessities like
Right.
soap, right?
Yes.
Hand sanitizer and basic food items. And when COVID hit, we were completely fine and secure. And I'll never forget just feeling that empowerment. Like, you know what? We're okay. At least we're okay with enough food in the cellar. And we don't have a year's worth of food stockpile, but we had enough stuff prepared. And not only that, but we knew how to make, or we do make our own stuff. So this concept of instead of looking from without, we look from within. And here's a phrase that I really believe God spoke to me about, that we are the cure. You are the cure. You listening right now, you watching right now, you have everything that you need to live a healthy, happy, abundant life. At times we need help. At times we need wisdom. At times we need intervention. But by and large, we have inherently within us all that we need. And instinctively, we know. Instinctively, when you ask people, they know at the core of their being, we have sacrificed quality for quantity.
Yeah.
And every piece of our life that we look at convenience, and the microwave is the perfect example. We don't even have one in our home. When you look at this microwave mentality of how we've just sacrificed health and wellness and quality just for quick, snappy, fast food mentality, it just blows our mind with, hey, maybe we need to take more of a slow cooker approach to life. So we are the cure. And so when that mindset, okay, what does that really mean? How does that help me on the day to day? How does that answer the question about toxic living? Well, we start to think, we start to look, and we start to evaluate what's happening around us. And a recent study I just stumbled upon has confirmed yet again that PFOAs, forever chemicals, are now in our rainwater. They're in our household dust. They're literally everywhere. We cannot escape toxins in our air, in our food, in our water. Yeah. But here's the thing that we can control. This is where I'm so passionate about this DIY non-toxic living thing. We can control what we put on our skin. We can control what we inhale. And now we start looking at, okay, we always go back to clean food, clean water, clean air. But what about the clean whatever it is that we're putting on our body all day long? Mm-hmm. And that's this insidious mechanism that truly is the root cause of all disease. Yeah. Our mutual friend, Dr. Tom O'Brien, he shared something with me that shook me to the core, because we've always heard this. Oh, inflammation is the root cause. Inflammation is the root cause. Tom corrected me. He's like, no, this was actually during an interview. He corrected me during an interview. I love that. I love that about Dr. Tom. Yeah. He's like, no, inflammation is the mechanism.
Yeah.
What causes the inflammation? I'm like, duh, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
What causes the right?
Yeah.
The thought, the anger, the unforgiveness, the
Yeah.
phthalate, the paraben, the whatever, the glyphosate, whatever chemical, whatever drug, whatever, that's what triggers inflammation. And then I started looking at my life, and it always goes back to fragrances
Mhm.
because those things are in everything. And flavor, that's in everything. So anything in your household that has flavor in it,
Uh-huh.
even natural flavor or fragrance,
Fragrance.
parfum, any kind of smell, guess what it is? It's a knockoff synthetic version of this.
Mhm.
And then I started diving deep and I went down the rabbit hole because a client at the time, this was 15 years ago, a client of mine, when I was a public health researcher, essentially for hire, commissioned me to write a series of public health reports on essential oils. I'm like,
Wow.
oh, this stuff is like
Yeah.
it was my job to read hundreds of research trials. I'm
Wow.
like, okay. And so I get it. And my wife's been using this stuff for years, but it started coming to me. I'm like, okay, yes, I could use oregano for acne. I could use tea tree for candida. I get the disease mentality, but what about every day?
Mhm.
And then once I started realizing that food, flavor, cleaning materials, building supplies, essential oil based products are everywhere all day long. And then I started thinking about this insidious chronic insult, this cause
Yeah.
of this inflammatory response that we now know has been linked to heart attack, stroke, cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, diabetes, basically all next to falls,
Mhm.
all of the top 10 causes of death. I was like, wow, if we were to take that out of the equation, and I'm not even talking about food, and I hope that God at this point, I really do, y'all pray, fully consider getting a really, really good air purifier. I'll leave Dr. Jill to recommend the one that she uses. I have one in every room in our
Yeah.
home. Make sure you have good air, make sure you have good water,
Yeah.
make sure you're doing the best you can to have clean food. But don't stop there. And most people do. Most people do. I'm like, well, think about your skin,
Mhm.
your largest organ, like a sponge, and all that's happening. Because we talk a lot about the microbiome in the gut, but what about the microbiome in your skin? And so this whole thing just catapulted into me, just my wife and I just being like radically passionate about this. Because we have seen, and I kid you not, Doc, it's unbelievable. We have seen people, countless people, just lose weight,
Yeah.
get free from allergies, minimizing autoimmune symptoms just by replacing body care and cleaning products
Yeah.
because we're being exposed to that all day long. So
Yeah.
people always ask, what's the first thing I should do? Simple, without question, beyond a shadow of a doubt, throw away anything in your home like those aerosols, those plugins, maybe your potty, they call them poo-poo sprays
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
bathroom toilet,
Yeah.
trash. Don't
Mhm.
even give it away to Goodwill. It's poison.
Yes.
Absolutely poison, endocrine disrupting, full of phthalates and parabens and fragrances. And that's one thing you can control is to come back and resensitize that sense of smell. And I'm kind of preaching and talking because I teach a masterclass on this every week. And it's like, this is how important it is. If you want to control something, absolutely control, because you can't control your food supply oftentimes. You can't control oftentimes your air. You can't even control your water a lot, but you can control what you put on your body.
Mhm.
That's something you directly can control, and what you wash your clothes with
Yeah.
and what you're washing your floors with and that sort of thing. It's like, wow. And you know what the cool thing is? And this is the best part of all of it, because again, we have 7 kids. I have a budget with a capital B. I get financial budgeting. We save like $3,000 plus a year just by making our own.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about all the cleaning sprays you have, all the glass sprays. I mean, hand sanitizer is one of the biggest ripoffs in the history of the planet and has the worst chemicals in it, triclosan,
Changes.
registered
Yeah.
pesticide,
It's so
right? And you can
cool.
make your own for
Right.
pennies.
Right.
Anyway,
No, I get so excited hearing you because the first thing I did, breast cancer 25, right? And within the years that follow, I was like, okay, why did I get 25-year-old breast cancer? And the same thing basically happened to me as understanding, oh, I grew up on a farm with organophosphates and endocrine disruptors and all these things, glyphosate, and then all
yep,
the stuff that young women put on their bodies. And that first thing
yep,
I did was exactly what you're talking about, was I went through, and honestly, I always give people a little leeway because it can be overwhelming, especially if
yep,
you're, a woman who uses 200 bath and body products, and which classically we do a lot, and even more so than men, but men use a lot too. And you first start by going through, what are you putting on your body? I have this conversation all the time, and I did that over those first few years to say, how am I, because skin is so absorptive and it really, really does matter. And the biggest thing, I love that you mentioned the fragrance because it's such a big deal. And all those plugins, those are all volatile organic compounds, which are very, very small particulate. And unless you have a good filter with a carbon center, you're not even going to filter those out with a HEPA filter. So this is there. I love that you mentioned PFAOs because I feel like polyfluorinated compounds are the big thing that no one's talking about. Recently, Colorado 2023, I started talking a lot about it because all of the major water supplies were tested and found to have to high levels. And this is a forever chemical. There's no scientifically calculated half-life. So we're stuck. Our children, our grandchildren, for now in Colorado, there's going to be these. And like you said, now the rainwater. And so I kind of want to just emphasize everything you're saying. People have heard, it's so true and so important. But I also I love that you're bringing solutions because part of this can be so overwhelming. And part of it, even for me as a 26-year-old after breast cancer, was like, okay, how do I start with this? And I love that you start, what are you putting on your skin? Because really, truly, that is the best place to start. So, say someone's listening and they, maybe have children in the house and they're thinking, hey, I should maybe take this seriously. And of course, if they've heard me before, they've heard some of this. Where
Yeah.
do you get, so the brand
Yeah.
new person who's like, okay, I've got a cabinet full of hair products, bath and beauty products. And
Yep.
the big thing I want to mention too, because I know you have a ranges of 7 children, one on the way. Um, and so young girls, especially, I see them, in Sephora, they're on TikTok, and they're like 8, 9, 10. This is such a critical age so if you're a mother of a young girl, please listen. And Dr. Z, I'll let you talk about this because it's such a big deal, even more so with young girls putting these products on their body and their face.
So I go back to the convenience statement, and this is just, if you get the big picture, you'll see what's happened to us. When you microwave your food, you're changing the structure of the food. It's a completely unnatural way of doing it, right? You could put on your convection oven, it'll take you 5 or 10 minutes versus 30 seconds. So when you're looking at all the different products, and going back to ladies especially, anything waterproof, those have the PFOAs in them.
Mhm.
Cooking supplies, food packaging, waterproof boots, waterproof umbrellas, and then it's just in a myriad of other products. So,
Takeout, right? Because they have the grease-proof container. So all of your takeout, your Uber Eats.
and even your organic cereal, though, that's
Mhm.
what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
in everything.
Hmm.
It's in everything. And so there's no way around it. So that's first off the realize there's no way to go completely non-toxic. So that is just accepting that.
Yeah.
I mean, accepting the fact that it's because the forever chemicals are in asphalt, the dust that's being emitted, the VOCs, the particulate matter, ends up condensing through and accumulating in the clouds. And that's why it's in our rain. So now that's in our food supply. And that's what they're going to find next,
Mhm.
right? Because
Yeah.
it's the rain. So unless you're growing your food in a greenhouse with dirt that you made
Yeah.
and using steam distilled water, it's in everything.
It's
So
everywhere.
just accept it. Like, okay, which goes back to faith.
Yeah.
And I'll share this with you, and I'm glad I can. Jill, it's only by the grace of God we're alive.
Yeah.
God created creation to live. By nature, we are made in his image to be resilient, to overcome. I just don't want to speed the coming of my passing.
Yeah.
So I look at this, right? So with that said, we are living, breathing, walking miracles. Jesus did not have to think about GMO foods 2,000 years ago. It just wasn't an option. So with that said, the things that we need to really be conscious of and think convenience, waterproof, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
The things that last forever, this 24-hour deodorant, your what is it, bug spray that lasts again 24 hours. They put chemical surfactants on all of this stuff to stick to your skin to prevent the evaporation. Because what you use with this essential oil is an actual volatile organic compound, a good version of it. So when you put your nose into a rose, you're literally smelling microparticles that are being emitted from the rose, stimulating your olfactory nerves that says something to the olfactory bulb, like, hey, there's a smell. And it triggers an impulse to your limbic system, your mood, your memory, your emotions, your autonomic function, your breathing rate, your heart rate. So the power of smell, we've oftentimes just desensitized to, and that's a whole nother topic that I'm really trying to help people realize, like, hey, you should be intolerant. You should not be able to go into the cleaning aisle at Walmart and be okay. You should have a runny nose. You should get a headache. You should get nausea. You should be intolerant of the Yankee candle that you're standing next to at your friend's house. Yeah. But because we're not, That's synonymous to putting your hand into a fire and not feeling pain.
Mhm.
Pain is a good thing. Inflammation is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's healing, but chronic pain, chronic inflammation, when we desensitize it, it becomes a problem. So when it comes to ladies, I want to encourage you. Here's a positive note. We are actually in a better position than what we were a decade ago. I
Mhm.
recently just found this. In 2004, women specifically used more products, but they were exposed to nearly 200 different chemicals. Now the number is down to like 120.
Mm.
I mean, it's still a lot,
Yeah.
but on average, according to the Environmental Working Group, men and women are exposed to much less. Men, on average, are exposed to about 80 plus chemicals a day in their home and body care thing. So, first off, I go back to the waterproof anything, those long lasting anything, and you look at possibly making your own
Mhm.
and look very carefully at the non toxic options that are with makeup and other things. When it comes to body care, quite frankly, cleaning body care, you do so much better making your own,
Mhm.
if possible, if you have the ability to. It's overwhelming when people be like, look at all the stuff that I have. Where do I start? That's why I always go back to the sprays,
Uh-huh.
the aerosols. That's the
Perfect.
easiest thing. The swap is simply a diffuser.
Yeah.
You can go on Amazon, buy a water diffuser. Another easy thing is hand sanitizer. Literally throw away your hand sanitizer. There's nothing good about it. And the problem with hand sanitizer, it acts very similar to an antibiotic
Yeah.
or an antifungal, antiviral. It literally kills everything.
Mhm.
So when you're putting this chemical laden product on your skin, not only is it filled with fragrances, which we've already talked a little bit about that, but when you're coming now to the microbiome level of your skin, you're creating what's known as leaky skin.
Mhm.
And researchers have actually found that this process leads to systemic inflammation. And an Oxford University study links that to Alzheimer's now,
Mhm.
because what we're creating is leaky brain,
Mhm.
chronic inflammation, neurological
Yeah.
inflammation in the brain, all because of the sanitization products that we're putting on our skin. So when you do something like this, and all this is literally is organic vodka with essential oils,
Mm.
done.
Simple.
That simple. And guess what? This is what blew my mind. The research a decade ago suggested this topic and concept and recently has confirmed it again. So I like that. 10 years of research, multiple studies confirming it. Essential oils have what researchers call cell selectivity. By the grace of God, God's design, He created these plants to literally target and kill pathogenic bacteria and microbes and leave the healthy alone.
Mhm.
So when you're looking at your microbiome, people always say, well, what does that do to my skin? Is it going to hurt my skin like the antibiotic or the antibacterial product? What about ingesting? Because we ingest essential oils on a regular basis. We help people treat SIBO
Mhm.
and other IBS and gut issues and Crohn's. You could do that with a capsule and it doesn't hurt your microbiome. In fact, it supports healthy growth of your microbiome because of that concept known as cell selectivity. And so, what the essential oil is essentially the lifeblood of the plant. It's what protects the plant
Yeah.
from infection, it's what heals a plant, it's what wards off vectors like bugs, microbes, and
Mhm.
all that. So, when you extract it and you're looking at literally 10 pounds of lavender flower, so this is highly concentrated plant based therapy, right?
Yeah.
When you're looking at that, like, okay, this is plant medicine. And
Yeah.
when you take a step back and you look at the advent of the antibiotic, what do you think people used to use? What do you think combat medics used in World War I, World War II before the antibiotic? They use essential oils.
Yeah.
Where do you think Bayer came up with the recipe for aspirin? Willow bark.
Yeah.
We see today all modern medicine at the basis, at the genesis, at one point or another, they took the plant chemistry
And modified
and
it, right? Which then
to,
became more toxic. I love what
yep,
you're saying, and I know some of my listeners have heard this, but if they haven't, there's a great John Hopkins study on essential oils for Lyme disease, which is one of the worst pathogens that a lot of my patients deal with, that chronic infection of Lyme or Bartonella or Borrelia. And it really outperformed almost all the alternatives. And it was
yep,
essential oil, I believe, of oregano, clove,
yep.
and cinnamon. Right. So we now literally compound it. So in my practice, this is not surprising at all because I use all kinds of forms of essential oils in treatment and it's very successful, like you said. And a lot of patients, just like you said, I love that you mentioned the cell selectivity because a lot of people are like, can I take this long term? And some
Yeah.
of my patients have kind of chronic gut dysbiosis, and I do often keep them on the appropriate blend, and I don't see any sequelae to the good
Yeah.
microbiome.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it fascinating?
Yeah.
As a rule of thumb, and this is something that I just always go back to because research studies typically are 4 to 6 weeks long for a variety of reasons. Not many people want to be part of anything for more than a month, and there's money involved. But I typically recommend, and ladies more than anyone realize you're on a monthly cycle. Our
Hmm.
skin regenerates every 28 days. So I typically recommend at least change the blend, change the protocol every month or so, a couple months here or there. You want to keep essentially your body guessing, but you're talking about things like this is real legitimate medicine. And when we have antibiotic resistant bacteria like MRSA
Hmm.
that modern medicine cannot touch, and you see research suggesting thyme and oregano specifically can kill MRSA, you're like, wow, this is a complete different shift. So now we're talking actual medicine.
Hmm.
But in the meantime, people like me, thank God I'm not sick right now.
Yeah.
And I don't need to treat anything. Yet I'm around and with essential oils all day long because 20 years ago, I was around and interacting with the fake essential oil.
Right.
And that's why I want to point that out. If you have anything in your life that has a flavor in it, even quote natural flavoring, I guarantee you that product in your organic, whatever flavored food isn't pure, unadulterated. It's just too cost prohibitive. It's not using essential oils. All the products that you have, natural, unnatural, are synthetically versions of essential oils. So the flavor or the aroma. And so all I did was flip the script. And I started seeing, okay, the things that I'm tasting, the things that I'm putting on my skin, that's what we do. So what we now embrace is what we call this natural living lifestyle. And we just use things because we know they're gonna just enhance our life. And so think of like this as a culinary dose, right? You can eat a garlic clove and that will give you a nice minor therapeutic benefit. It's an antioxidant, it's antimicrobial. That's nice and minor. Same thing with this. I just put like a drop of orange, let's say, in my morning smoothie. I love a morning latte, my matcha latte. I'll put a drop of peppermint, a drop of cinnamon, because I know it helps regulate my blood pressure, helps give me energy. There's so many benefits to it, but it's also just minor. And I'm just flipping the script. Instead of having the fake version, I have the real. And the body care is something that we really embrace because with our kids, we're not putting essential oils in their lifestyle as medicine, but we essentially put oil on their body every single day as like their moisturizer. It's part of just their daily routine. And so I just want to encourage people, like when you look at the things that you do and things that you are using, um, look at the back of the label and look for ingredients. And if you see the word parfum or fragrance, you know for sure that is a synthetic version of essential oil. It's not doing your body any good. The easiest, quickest thing to do is to buy a non-unscented version of it. So you could go to the store, shampoo, body, whatever it might be, and you could get some really clean, affordable products that are unscented. And then you can just put a couple drops of essential oil, and then you have your own little easy, quick hack. If you want to go to the next level, go to our website, naturallivingfamily.com, just look up the categories. And now you have my wife's free database of all the recipes that we make at our house.
Wow.
And they're like, okay, let's try shampoo today. Let's try hand sanitizer. Overwhelm is the biggest thing
Yeah.
that prevents us from literally doing anything good. And that's where I want to encourage people to start with the low hanging fruit. Typically, I find the easiest thing is the hand sanitizers because there's just two ingredients, right?
Yeah.
Or those air purification type of air purifier things. And you just start there and just experience. And the question always becomes, which oils do I use? And this is where it gets fun, Jill.
Yeah.
You use what you want. Like they all have a similar
Uh-huh.
healthy antioxidant, antimicrobial benefit. They all support mood. They all support your body in one way or another. What environment do you want to create? And this is where this gets really exciting because if you are a high stress individual and if you want to create a peaceful environment in your home, there are things you can actually do to physically change your neurochemistry within seconds. And that's just by putting some certain essential oils. Let's say it's lavender. People often heard of that wonderful, wonderful flower, known instantly stimulate the parasympathetic system, puts people in just a lessened, heightened state. And that right there, when you permeate your room with the physical particles of the essential oils, you literally change everyone's neurochemistry. People start to digest food a little bit better. They start to produce certain hormones. You start noticing your breathing rate changing. And that's just subtle. You actually now think about a couple other things. Maybe choose a different type of music, maybe choose a different type of, artwork or plants in your home. Like you could really start to create your environment. If you're sluggish in the morning and you want to get your 7 kids up and get them out to school, you're not going to use lavender. What do? You flip the script, put a couple drops of peppermint, a couple drops of orange, and like, boom, now we're perked up. Peppermint oil has been shown clinically to increase athletic performance. It's a
Yeah.
stimulant and increases your VO2 max. So you get better breathing rate. It literally is like consuming a shot of espresso.
Uh-huh.
Orange, rich in D-limonene, one of the most potent anti-inflammatory components in the world. In fact, orange is, I think, like the biggest kept secret in our world because it's super cheap, like cost effective. You could get a bottle of this for like $10. D-limonene
Uh-huh.
has been shown to fight and kill cancer in vitro. It's been wonderfully, wonderfully effective at producing dopamine and serotonin. It's an antidepressant, anti-inflammatory. It helps with pain, helps with a number of things. It tastes great.
Uh-huh.
Again, you have orange in a lot of your food and dishes and things. You can just put a drop in there. You can make a body oil. There's so many things that we could do. And so the question is not necessarily what do I use, but how do you want to feel?
Yeah.
And that's the guiding principle. So with your hand sanitizer, if you want to be uplifted, if you want to feel hopeful, if you want to be focused, right? If you deal with scattered brains, there are certain things for each. And it's like, wow, going back to what I said before, maybe I am the cure. Maybe I do have inherently what I need with a little bit of guidance, right?
Yeah.
A little nudge of the Holy Spirit. Maybe I do have what I need to make good decisions. And I am not now a victim of my genetic lottery, and I'm not now a victim of my environment.
Mm. That's so powerful because I even think if anyone's ever been to a good quality massage, often they'll ask you, which essential oil would you like in your oil? And it's, and it's the lemongrass and the peppermint, more uplifting, and then the citrus somewhere in between, and then the lavender. No, I want to relax. And I've had that experience many, many times, and I can
Yeah.
choose based on my mood and how I feel. And it really, really does enhance that experience. And so anything else in your life, I can see how it's just fun to think about all the many ways. One thing we didn't talk about, so far we talked about the VOCs coming from your air fresheners, get rid of those. You've talked about putting stuff on your body, so crucial because that's such a large surface area. We talked about young kids and protecting them. And then I love your simple tip about just getting unscented if you can't start to make your own, because even for
Mhm.
me, I haven't made all my own yet, but I love the idea of getting simple. Let's talk about cleaning products because
Yeah.
whether you have a cleaner or you clean yourself or anywhere in between, most of us have kind of a combination where even if we have a cleaner, we clean up in between. And
Yeah.
this is, I think, a big area because we're sold a bill of goods that we have to have these certain things and that bleach is better and all that. That is a myth. But do you want to talk about cleaning products? Because I think this is a big one and it's so simple to do it yourself.
Yeah, I got to quote my friend Jill Winger and give her a plug. You never heard of her? Go to theprairiehomestead.com. Jill and I hosted the largest online event at the time. It was a decade ago, the
Wow.
Essential Oil Revolution. We had 160,000
I
people at this
remember
event.
that.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
I interviewed Jill. Jill's on the homestead, like legit off grid. She's 45 minutes away from Chugwater. Who has ever heard of Chugwater,
Yeah.
Wyoming? So this little tiny town, she lives 45 minutes off grid off of that. Legit homesteader. She doesn't have bleach in her home. I
Mhm.
mean, they have a meat packaging facility at this point in her home.
Uh-huh.
And we're dealing with animals and they're dealing with all kinds of different things that they deal with. And all she uses are do it yourself, vinegar based,
Uh-huh.
essential oil based products. I was
Amazing.
like, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
We, I glossed over that Oxford University study that I quoted about systemic inflammation because of sanitization, but I want to go back to that really quick.
Yes, let's do.
This study evaluated 190 countries in the world. Again, this is Oxford University, like Oxford. This isn't and I got to say, we get a lot of criticism, hippies, patchouli, just woo woo. Oxford University Journal published a study. They evaluated the rates of Alzheimer's and the correlation between sanitization. And the word is sanitization, not cleanliness.
Right.
Sanitizing things is not what we want to do. We do not want to kill everything. Sanitization. They found a direct correlation between higher rates of Alzheimer's and sanitization in industrial countries. And they surmised, they said this. because of the products that they're using. It's hurting the skin microbiome, creating systemic inflammation. So first off, you don't need antibacterial cleaning products or body care. It is not good for you.
Correct.
And so when you're looking at that, what do we need? Well, just good essential oil based products. And your store that you might go to, maybe your natural health store, your favorite, you can go to Whole Foods. There's tons of them. There's all kinds of ones that don't have toxic fragrances or phthalates or parabens. But I'll refer you to our website because it's free. I mean, if you want to make your own and it's cheap, again, I stress the word cheap because you will save a ton of money. Glass cleaner, a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of water, a little bit of essential oils, a couple drops of Castile soap. I mean, it works better than anything. And if you mentioned cleaners, we have a cleaning company that helps. Once a week they come, they do surface clean of the whole house. And I'll tell you, the biggest compliment we got is they use our products at home.
Wow.
They're like, we love coming to your house. We don't feel like we don't get the headaches.
Yeah.
We don't get the nasal drip. And it was really cute because my wife, and by the way, it's the best hack. You can go up heavy duty wipe, just type up heavy duty wipe. She has this really cool little hack where she cuts up old t-shirts and she soaks it in this mason jar. And this thing is better than it's basically your replacement for your Clorox wipe.
Yes.
Toxic stuff. And the cleaners were talking to my wife, how exactly do you do that? They're talking about the DIY recipe and they're like, we make this at home.
Wow.
I'm like, really? Yeah, because they are around everything. They spend every day, all day long with everyone else.
They know what works and they know how they feel.
Yes. And is that that was the best compliment I got. And my wife just loves coming up with these products. So again, another trick is if you can't find something that you want to, or I'm sorry, if you don't have time or the energy to make your own, there are some good non-toxic companies out there. And we have mutual friends, like Stephen Azell from Truly Free. We know him. I mean, we're very close. There are good companies that sell truly non-toxic based products. And it's worth any extra expense to buy. But if you can make your own, you're only going to save money. And so it literally is everything. Granite cleaner, floor cleaner, body, hand soap. Hand soap is so easy within a pumper. You'll be best friends with Dr. Bronner's Castile soap and some essential oils. And again, all the recipes are on our website. And we even have a deck. You can go on Amazon and look up my last name. We have a deck of cards that comes out with our favorite home and body.
I was super excited about that.
I
think you mentioned at the beginning before we jumped on, just the new thing so that's a deck of cards. What's it called? If people
it's called, let me show you.
Yeah, let's
essential oil recipes. So
cool.
It's just fun. People just want hey, I just want a survey.
Yeah.
Right? I just want to look at home and body. What do I do? How do I make an inhaler? What's my heart healthy blend? All kinds of soothing roll-ons. But the cool thing is where do you start? This is a fun little hey, you can go to the website. You can go
That's
here.
What I would do because I'm I don't know where to start. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I
just start. Start with the hand soap. Again, foaming hand soap, hand sanitizer, super easy. Glass spray, super easy. And once you start, it's wow. You wonder why you weren't doing this before. You really will. Wow, it becomes part of your routine. Upstairs right now, my wife has the whole kitchen. She'll spend a couple days a month and she'll just make a bunch of stuff and it's just last us for months. It's batch cooking, right? Yeah. We do freezer meals. Again, when you have a large family, you're from that, you got to come up with solutions if you want to live a healthier life, and you have to be really, wise with your time. And so it's fun. It's exciting. Embrace. And I'm going to leave everyone with this. Start with the low-hanging fruit. And I always go back to what's easy for you. What can you afford? What do you want to do? When you look at this beautiful cherry tree that's full bloom and you're ooh, I want to eat cherries, you don't get the 20-foot extension ladder and stand on top. No, you pick the fruit that you can while you're standing on the ground. That's the low-hanging fruit, something easy. Because once you start doing the easy things and make that part of your day-to-day, now you could go get that step ladder. And now you're only a couple feet up. And then after that, you get the 6-foot ladder. And then you could go really high up. And that takes a couple years. But you know what? We've been doing this now, my wife and I, for 22 years. Wow. And it's so easy because it's all that we know. And my kids, that's all that they know.
Right.
Home birth kids that live this lifestyle, they don't know any different. Yeah. And so you have to start. And the wonderful thing is, you are empowered, you grow, you feel like I could do a lot more
Uh-huh.
things. And you start to question, like, do I need to go to the emergency room for this? Or can I look at that? And you start to, you start to think, I actually can have more control and more, let's say, empowerment over my health and the way that I live. And maybe this could now go into other areas, your mental health, your emotional health, your financial health. And you start to see, like, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
I got this.
Wow. And if any message that we need in this world with escalating rates of depression and suicide, and I mean, this message, and maybe that's where we end. Resilience. I love that that's in our title. I love that it matters to you, and it matters to me so much. How would you define resilience to those listening out there? What does that really mean?
Boy, for I can only talk from a faith perspective. And this is a bit counterintuitive for people. As we look at resilience, it's not about willpower. So for people of faith, true resilience is about surrender.
Yes.
It's about it's about letting go, and it's about obedience. And when you like let go and let God take over, you have the ability, like Paul says, this peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. You're under the shadow of the Most High, and you're protected. And I've seen this in my children. And if there's anything that's brought me closer to God, it's having children,
Yeah.
because my children look to me, especially my babies.
Hmm.
They look to me like I am a godlike figure to them. We're the source of all life to them, source of all food, right? Not in like a crazy way, but they look at me like I'm the source of love, compassion, discipline.
Yeah.
And when my children are going through something, my 2-year-old just had something happen to him. He bumped his head,
Oh, yeah.
right? He came right to me.
Yeah.
He just came right to daddy. And he just needed just to cry a minute and just snuggle.
Yeah.
Like, that's resilience.
Yeah.
And then he got up, came right out. And he didn't do it alone. He didn't grin and bear it. He ran to me. Your children run to you. And that's where we need to run to the Father
Yeah.
who loves us, who gave his son for us. And that's where I found true resilience, true fortitude, and the ability to overcome all, and the path to the abundant life that Christ talks about. It's such a
Wow.
wonderful, wonderful journey.
I love ending there so much. And what comes to mind is like in the research scientists about childhood behavior, they describe this exact thing you just described with your 2-year-old, which is when there's a secure, functioning adult parent and the child can go to them in crisis, what happens is they're brave in the world to try new toys, to get out and meet new people, to try new things. And that bravery that they experience at 2 and 3 and 4 comes from knowing there's a secure father or mother there that they know they can go back to. And then it's like this independence thing, right? This yo-yo where they have the security of knowing their father is always there and will love them and hold them when they're hurt. But then they go out and explore in the world. And they've shown children who don't have that, they're afraid to explore. And
Mm.
so it's so counterintuitive because they actually have more freedom to go out. And I think it's such a parallel and a great way to end for us as when we have a purpose-driven life as something much greater than us to go to. I feel the same. I do a lot of scary things, but I do that knowing I've got a great God who guides and directs and always has my best interest. And it might seem scary, like you're going through crisis as a young man and me going through cancer, but then in the end, it's turned around to be the biggest blessing because it teaches us and grows us. And so I guess I'll just end if you're listening out there and you're struggling right now. I hope that you can find that source of strength that Dr. Z and I are talking about in whatever way that looks like for you. We obviously have our own faith background, but it's so, so important. And honestly, I think it's the most powerful healer of all.
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen.
awesome. Thank you again. This has been so fun to go on all levels, and I know people will really enjoy this. And you mentioned the website, but I want to mention again, where can people find you, find your products, find the card deck?
Yeah, yeah. Please just check out naturallivingfamily.com. You can search up my name, Dr. Eric Zielinski, on Amazon, books, the card deck, all kinds of things. You just hang out. My wife and I have just hundreds of resources and recipes and all kinds of great things that you could check out and to live a more non-toxic, abundant life. And thank you again, Dr. Jill. I just really appreciate the conversation.
Oh, you are so welcome. It has been so fun. We'll have to do this again. And for everyone listening, thanks for joining us for another episode of Resiliency Radio. Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another episode of Resiliency Radio. If you haven't yet subscribed, please click the button below and join the over 500,000 subscribers that we currently have on YouTube. If you're on Spotify, iTunes, or any other place where you listen to podcasts, would you please stop and leave us a review? It really means a lot to us. And click on the comments below if you have guest recommendations or any comments or questions about the content. We put out a new episode every week, so stay tuned next week for a new episode. We'll see you all soon.